So we're back to continue this conversation about the biblical call for justice, and in our particular context, criminal justice reform. And initially, we talked about the need for shalom and kind of the heart behind the love part, right, of the love and justice component. Now we get to talk about the justice part. Like, what do we actually do? In Romans 12, 2, we are told, do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. When we think about the renewing of our mind, about inmates, those who are incarcerated, those who are in the carceral system, we think about needing to transform a culture of abusing power, exploiting people, and then contrasting that to kingdom culture. So tell us a little bit about how important the work of renewing our minds is to this work of justice.
Yeah, it's such a great question, and it's a journey, because I think the biggest transformation that we're learning, especially as Western Christians, is more of an emphasis on being community as opposed to seeing ourselves primarily as an individual only. And it's just me and God. It's like, no, that's part of it.
Right.
But we are always connected to community. So renewing our mind into understanding, if my brother ain't right, I'm not right. If my sister's struggling, I'm struggling. Like there's this link. We are linked like a body, right? We see in the New Testament the picture of a body. We're connected. We're linked. We share the systems. The same blood runs through our veins. If something happens on my toe, it's connected to my brain. It's connected to, like, we're all connected. So I think about renewing our minds in not being okay with seeing our communities being exploited, not being okay with staying in my comfort bubble of privilege, whatever privilege I've been given. I've been given a certain amount of privilege in my life through people who have come before me, and I'm not just going to stay comfortable in my seat. I'm going to use the power that I have and try to empower someone else so that we can all thrive, because the lie of the way of the world is that there's not enough, and you have to have a scarcity mentality to just try to get yours and protect yours. But the mindset of the kingdom is there's abundance. If we all bring to the table who we are and what we have, everyone's going to have more than enough. And so having that abundant mindset is one of the ways we renew our minds. But the only way the abundance mindset works is if we actually show up and be open-handed.
Yeah, that's so good and so important. And I think that your story is a picture of that abundance, right? The investment of time, of energy, of attention to Jonathan's story did not bring you less life. It brought you more life, right? And then now what you're doing in your own community and pouring into other people, like the formerly incarcerated brother that you gave a job, that didn't take away from you. That actually added, value to you. And this reminds me of Jesus's inaugural address, his introduction to the world. We see in Luke chapter 4, verse 18, where he says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor, recovery of sight to the blind, liberty to the captive, and to set free those who are oppressed." So if that's his mandate and we're his body, then that is actually now part of our mandate as part of the body of Christ. Well, let's talk about how do we actually do that, right? Yeah. Okay, so our minds are renewed. We see systems need to be changed that exploit people and oppress them. What can we actually do about this?
Yeah.
First thing is have a conversation. Like if you notice something that doesn't sound right, hey man, I don't know if this is the best thing to have. Say something to somebody. Say something to a neighbor. Say something to a person who's in authority. And if they don't respond, continue to do research. Listen to what they say.
Yeah.
But then check the facts.
Right.
The easiest thing to do is to have a conversation and talk about that. That's one of the simplest things.
So spreading the conversation, like having the conversation, spreading the word. What are some other activities that we can do? And when we think of, and I guess in your work with Win with Justice, you talk about in the book that you were given kind of advice because it's an enormous task. It's an enormous system. Even though the United States is only 5% of the world's population, we incarcerate 22% of the world's incarcerated people. So it's an enormous task. But you were given some suggestion and advice to kind of focus and to identify a particular aspect of that in prosecutorial reform. Tell us about that.
Like you said, the work is many, but the laborers are few. But we are the laborers. We are laboring alongside of Jesus through the Holy Spirit. And we have the strength we need to endure to the end. Like, let's go. I'm getting my basketball mode now. Like, y'all, we got this. Like, we just have to keep showing up every day and sticking together. And so part of what that can look like of showing up is something that I wasn't doing through a lot of my young adult life, was being aware of who my prosecutor was. So Win with Justice it's an educational platform to help you learn about the role and the power of the prosecutor. They are the ones that are really in charge of bringing justice in communities. They set the charges. They are going to the judge and saying, this wrong needs to be righted. And so there's a lot of power and responsibility and leadership placed on prosecutors. It's a great job. It's a wonderful, needed role. But over time and from just, perverted roots in a lot of ways, we have let this culture of the appearance of justice be more important than restorative justice. Like, that's God's heart, to restore shalom, to restore the beauty of our relationships being back whole. And so you see that appearance of justice where it looks like we're getting justice because we have a whole bunch of convictions. We're tough on crime. We're going to put, as many convictions and clean up the, whatever the rhetoric is that makes it about looking like you have a lot of stats.
97% conviction rates, all that there.
It's never that simple. Like, restorative justice is going to look like, hey, let's create a program to send this 16-year-old who the community has failed, which is probably why they're turning to crime, because they're not getting their needs met from their youth. That's a whole nother conversation of why we have crime and why we have poverty. And it's because we allow it as a community. It doesn't have to be that way if we're more whole and together and healthy, but we take the creative ability that we have to maybe create a program that is another alternative. Instead of giving that 16-year-old 65 years in a box, we actually create a correctional.
How about that? It is correctional is in the name, but it's not in the practice.
No. Corrections, the Department of Corrections is only a name. It's a rebranding. Rather than calling it a penitentiary, they've changed the name to the Department of Corrections. That's not a thing.
And what you're saying is that part of the responsibility we can have that you did and that you did is to know who the prosecution is, know what the system is, and then begin to speak to that system.
Correct. Having a conversation, learning about who your prosecutor is, because we vote for prosecutors. So that's when I was talking about where I wasn't doing my part early on, because I didn't know who my prosecutor was. I wasn't voting. I was intimidated. And I was ignorant. And so part of what Jonathan was saying, to break the intimidation, is we have conversations. We have education. We connect with each other. And then you get more confident when you're on a team, right? And you're connected to your community. And people are in front of you, and it means more. If you're just trying to solve something from a distance or over your phone, it's like, no, you need to have flesh and blood. And that's how life is lived. So knowing who your prosecutor is, being a more engaged voter, it starts locally. Right? You have a local prosecutor. Your state has a prosecutor or an attorney general or a district attorney, something like that. And hold them accountable through your vote. And then encourage conviction integrity units. Jonathan taught me about conviction integrity units. And they're units within the prosecutor's office that are trying to make sure that there's integrity behind the convictions. It's a checks and balances that needs to be empowered to actually be put in practice in prosecutors' offices. And there's an organization we partner with. It's called For the People. And they are highlighting ways and people and prosecutors that are working on prosecutor-led resentencing. So they're encouraging, they're rewarding a culture of, hey, we messed up, let's fix it, instead of, oh, we messed up, let's cover this up.
Yeah.
So the appearance of justice as opposed to, let's restore this, and then highlight and celebrate those people in our communities.
And that's again something that can be practically done. It reminds me of the scoreboard in sports. Like, what you count is what people measure is what matters. And so instead of just measuring conviction rates, which says that the only thing matters is putting somebody in prison for as long as possible, let's measure some other things that can include even getting the record right if it's been wrong. Another thing that you all work with is this idea of prison ministry, which you benefited from and that you experienced in prison reform. Tell us a little bit about the roles of those two pieces in this process.
I would say prison ministry is probably the lifeblood of justice within that space. Because when people come in, they speak life to a person who's been talked down to, like 24/7. That's the norm. Not only from the staff, but also from fellow inmates that may not like a person or whatever, or just seeing something on the news, like, oh man, they don't like me just because I'm in prison. So when prison ministry comes in, when you come in and speak life to a person, like you are giving life, you are not losing anything. Like, it is life-giving. Hugh Flowers, aka Papa, Big Papa, he used to come in and say, he used to make his day to come in after he raised 4 kids. 4 kids. Yeah. 4 kids. Worked a job as a music teacher. Built his own house, and came in. He did countless things, and came in and ministered to men. Like he was our guy. We were so thankful to have him there. But he said it was life-giving to him. And it also gave us life. We had a reason to get up out that bed, because normally you're in your room. It's the size of a bathroom with a toilet and a bunk bed, and there's not much room to walk around. So now it's nothing. You're laying in your bed, in a small bed, kind of like you're in a coffin. And you do that all day. So when you have a reason to get up out of that bed and have life and get your blood flowing instead of in that sedentary state, like, that's life-giving. Going to visit somebody, you have to come up out your bed to go see somebody up on a visit who's going to speak life into you, may get you some food out the vending machine, may read with you, may pray with you, say something that you need to hear. Like, yeah, I know it's tough in here, but you only got a little bit long. You're almost there. You ain't where you was, but look at where you're going. So I'm proud of you. Keep going. Good job, man. That right there, like, that is easy to do, but has such a huge impact upon the person who's receiving that.
Wow. And that's something that we can all do. Like, you don't even have to have a law degree to do that, right? So, in light of your experiences being inside for 23 years, what are your thoughts about other things that need to change in the prison system?
Well, one, I think prison needs to be a place where a person, they do feel the consequences of their actions, but there also needs to be a culture where people can learn job skills. People can really get meaningful help to grow their minds and spiritual growth, spiritual knowledge, or whatever walk of life, just improvement, social enrichment. As far as just locking people down 24/7, that's never a good thing. That creates and exasperates the mental health crisis that's happening right now, because prison is overrun with people with mental health issues. And the U.S. Supreme Court has said it is unconstitutional to house sane prisoners with prisoners that are unsane. Like, that is in black and white, but that is happening at an alarming rate. I think another thing that needs to happen, like, there needs to be panels for prisoners to be able to discuss the things that they need and be able to negotiate more. Like, okay, we need this. Can we get this right here to help us progress and have a better lifestyle? Because if you think taking a person who's already in a bad situation and putting them in a worse situation is going to make them better, you are sadly mistaken. All that's going to do, it's just like taking a car that was broken. It won't start. You put it in the garage for 10 years. let it sit there in the dark, mold, may have rats in it, and you think, oh, I'm gonna be able to drive this car now. Let me just put a battery in and turn the ignition. You're gonna have rotten belts, rotten. Everything on that car is gonna be messed up. The car's not gonna start. Right. Same thing with people. If a prisoner is already coming from a bad situation that's depraved to an even worse situation, which is more concentrated with people that have the same mentality, without any type of improvement or opportunities, what do you think is gonna happen? Like, so that has to happen. Another thing that has to happen is when prisoners get ready to be released, they need opportunities to basically step away from the environment that they're in and have like a whole different ecosystem where they can function and live and learn and prepare their minds, because it's a process. You don't just get ready for the streets and all of a sudden just be gone. Like, even though I'm doing well right now, like it's a lot to be able to transition from prison lifestyle to coming out and living in society. I didn't know nothing about no phone. When I left the streets, we had a little beeper. And when my wife gave me this iPhone, like, I was like, what do I do with it? I felt like a caveman. I was, and she basically had to show me how to use it. I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't have a social security card. I didn't have a birth certificate. All of these things that are required to even have an identity, get a state ID, let alone a driver's license. Wow. Like, that's another thing where prison ministry is important. If some of these churches come in and help out some of the members to basically volunteer to help some of these men get the things that they need and walk alongside them as a group, not individually, but as a group, they just encourage them and bring them all. That's going to be so life-giving and so improving.
Well, the task is large. There are millions of men and women who are finding themselves entrapped in the system. We didn't even get a chance to talk about the phone call charges, the video conference, like just all the different ways in which it is, you see just price gouging and injustices, right?
Epidemic.
Yeah. In the midst of all of that, in the midst of so many different pieces between reform, reentry programs, prosecutorial oversight, and accountability, what gives you hope? What gives you hope that we can change this and that we, even as believers, can contribute to this type of reform?
The hope that I have comes from future joy. So, we look at Jesus, and because of the joy set before him, he endured the cross, right? He suffered on behalf of others for future joy of that restored relationship. And I think about our fight. Because of the joy that we saw in the future, Jonathan hung in there, I hung in there, our godparents hung in there, and we're experiencing that future joy. Our life screams, future joy is coming. We look at our son, our 2-year-old roughneck,
Yeah, he is too. Wow.
jumping off of everything, stressing me out. We look at him and it's like, baby, you are future joy now. And never forget, every time you take a step towards humanizing someone, every time you take a step towards dignifying somebody, every time you take a step towards restoring shalom, it is a step towards future joy. I could not imagine our life without Jonathan. Like, our community, like our home, our neighborhood, like, he's providing jobs. He started a business because he took the initiative when he was inside to better himself. He found ways, he helped create ways to better himself. So he did have job skills, created a business, providing jobs for people who really needed jobs in so many different ways. And it's thriving and it's bringing life to families, how he trains and cares for their precious dogs. And as a dog trainer and a boarder for our neighborhood and our community, the joy of being his wife, the joy of watching him be a dad to our little guy, the joy of watching him be a son to my mom and Sherry and Reggie, the joy of watching him help a leader in our community who's in a place of being a judge and helping to give him insight. So how he executes justice as a judge is better because Jonathan is helping him. To think about the story that he's sharing that inspires other people who are struggling with his voice and his testimony. I mean, the list goes on and on. The joy I get from just watching him live and laugh and be goofy and have peace the way he can. I mean, the way he loves on our friends. I don't know how much time we have. The way he loves on our friends and our people. Like, it's just, what would life be like without Jonathan? And so when you see that person, remember that, like, there is joy, there is life on the other side of giving them dignity so that they can be what God has created them to be in the full.
Wow, that gives me joy. It's just hearing you talk about it. I'm going to ask you the same question with the context of knowing we're talking about a system that took 23 years of freedom, of choices, of things from you. What gives you hope that we can change this?
Man, what gives me hope is that, God does not operate on our timetable. He operates on his. But when he does come through, like, it is overflowing and overwhelming, full of joy and hope. And 9 chances out of 10, if you wait for him and be patient for him, like, it's going to be okay. Or you may be transitioning to something different. The main thing is just hold on, just wait. It's going to get better. If we take a minute and look back in the past, like, the history is a great teacher to show you, to encourage you. And think about the plight of the Black people. Think about the plight of Jewish people. Think about all the things that are going on in the world, like just in our American culture right now, like immigration, all those different things have made drastic improvements. And I believe if we work together, they can only get better, because we have seen them in our lifetime. We've seen things change. Like, my life, like, at one point I felt I came to terms, I guess I'm never gonna have a son, because I'm gonna die in here. But I said, okay, Lord, I'm gonna still serve you, even if it means I have to stay here. But God, he said, no, I'm gonna deliver you, and I'm gonna give you a son. I'm gonna give you a wife and a family. And although you are, like it is written in the Bible, God plants the lonely in families. Like, I was one of those prisoners that the Bible is. That's probably one of the highest words used about prisoners in the Bible. If you do a word search on prisoners in the Bible, you will get tired of reading it. Like, I was a prisoner and God set me free. He opened the prison gates and delivered me and planted me in a family where I was. Wow. And I'm no longer lonely. I have my family with me. I wasn't lonely then. He was with me through that, and he kept me through it. But he knew I needed a family, and he needed to set me free. And I had to wait for me. Even though it took 20, I lost 11 appeals. 11 appeals. Not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, one after another, back to back to back. No breaks in between. And on that 11th one, God said, it is time. And he opened up that gate. And I married this. He had this out here waiting for me. You know what I'm saying?
Level up.
I got done this, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Well, that gives me hope. How can you not? And thank you all so much for sharing your story. How can people be a part of Win with Justice? Is that, a next step that people can take?
Absolutely. Win with Justice is, you can go to the website, winwithjustice.org. You can purchase our book, Love and Justice. And in the back, there are some resources that can get you connected with some organizations that are doing the work. Yeah. And we don't have to recreate the wheel. We partner with people who are doing the work. And there's a good chance that someone in your community or close to your community is doing the work. And so we're going to have, more resources connected to these video sessions that'll give people more ideas and more encouragement to keep going. But, we just want to, just like Jonathan said, like, don't grow weary. Just keep doing that good work, because in due season, you're going to reap. And, it starts with a conversation.
Let's have a conversation. Reach out to us.
That's how you get connected with Win with Justice. You have a conversation with someone who is doing the work, or someone who doesn't look just like you, and get that momentum going of, I can be connected to my community.
I'm full. I'm ready to do this now, And you guys have had that impact on me, and I'm sure for so many people who are watching. I think about the passage that you quoted and alluded to, let us, in Hebrews, right now, let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. It's going to be some hard times. It's going to be some hard days. Despising the shame, dealing with the scorn and even ridicule of other people, but for the joy that was set before him, accomplished a great thing on our behalf. So as a result of Jesus, he saw, he felt, and he acted, and he now empowers us and causes us to do the same.
Amen.
And thank you for Win with Justice helping us see the way of how to do that. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Glad to be here. Thank you.